How's it going, everyone? My name is Michael SK, and welcome back to Chaos Child. So in the last episode, I rambled on for about 10 minutes before jumping into the true route, which follows Serica. We're actually following somebody else from the get-go of a route. Here and there, we kind of jumped away from Takuru to other scenes that were going on, not exactly following one person, and I think very rarely we would actually follow a character, but we've been following Serica around post-common route, where she has lost her memories, and she was living outside of Shibuya, kind of came back into Shibuya to find answers because, yeah, the answers are there regarding her past and everything that she was involved in, everything that occurred in Chaos Child, if you will. So, in the last episode, Chaos Child Syndrome was brought up, and, you know, we heard about it here and there, especially in the common route, but I never really thought much of it. Kind of just like, oh, you know, kind of a PTSD that you get after the earthquake or some shit. But apparently, the patients of those with the Chaos Child Syndrome, the patients have been attending Hekiho Academy, and I think some of them may not even be children. It's very strange, but a lot of them look like ghouls. Actually, all of them look like ghouls, but I guess it's hard to say if all of them are truly kids. So hopefully we can learn more about the whole Chaos Child Syndrome now that we've come to AH Tokyo General Hospital. Most of the hospital must have been closed for the weekend because the lobby was almost empty. But visiting hours hadn't ended yet, so no one stopped me as I walked through the halls. Come to think of it, the paper I was given only had a name. I didn't know if it belonged to a doctor, a patient, or maybe even a nurse.
すいません。
I spoke to a nurse at the nurse's station.
はい。どうしました？ですね、この人ってここで働いてたりしますか？
I showed her the name on the memo. The nurse nodded.
失礼ですけど。あ、尾上と言います。久野里さんのお知り合いですか？なんていうのか。ああ、そうだ。百瀬さんの紹介と言ってくれればわかります。
The nurse nodded again and reached for the phone on the desk. She spoke on the phone with someone for a moment.
お待たせしました。お会いになるそうです。5階の精神科へどうぞ。精神科？ええ。普通には入れないので注意してくださいね。エレベーターを降りるとすぐに扉があります。脇のインターホンを押してください。担当看護師がご案内します。わかりました。ありがとうございます。
This is the proper way to go in. I headed for the elevator like the nurse said.
あ、ちょっと。はい？
The nurse glanced around to see if anyone was listening and leaned toward me. She was whispering.
久野里さんとは初めて会うの？はい。気をつけてね。ちょっと気難しい人だから。
I narrowed my eyebrows a little. For some reason, the nurse said good luck. Oh yeah, we'll need that luck. So she's working here now, huh? Man, what happened in these last few months? I went up to the 5th floor and pressed the button to call the nurse, who let me into the psych ward. I was told to go to the first door down the hall. Wait, I was going to a hospital room. I was sure she worked for the hospital.
患者さんなのかな?
And there was a plate for patient names in front of the room, but it didn't say Kunasato, it was blank. I knocked timidly.
開いてる。
A gruff voice answered. Huh? Did I know that voice?
何してる？入るならさっさと入れ。はい。失礼します。
I remembered what the nurse had just said. She really did seem difficult. Or scary, more like. I fidgeted a little as I opened the door. The reason I thought I heard that voice before was that I had met her several times. Sometimes she'd come to visit me with Momose when I was in the hospital after my accident. I hadn't asked her name. I guess it was Kunasato then. Kunasato was sitting at her laptop typing at an incredible speed. She didn't even look at me.
どうして来た？
はい？
渋谷には近づくなと言われていたはずだ。
ここは渋谷じゃないです。代々木です。
なら、私がここにいるとなぜわかった？百瀬さんのところへ行って、居場所を聞いたんじゃないのか？
Therefore, we went to Shibuya. She's figured me out.
百瀬さんのフリージアは渋谷だ。ということは、やっぱりお前は渋谷に行った。ほら見ろ。私は忠告に従えないようなバカは嫌いだ。覚えておけ。
I now knew exactly why the nurse had wished me good luck. I spoke loudly to keep up with the sound of fingers hitting keys.
ここへ来たのはどうしても知りたいことがあるからです。私の記憶のことです。
She was deliberately hitting the keys hard. I wouldn't lose though.
これ
I put the photograph I'd brought in front of her face, and since she refused to look away from the screen.
碧峰学園の新聞部っていう部屋で見つけたんです。これについて何か知ってることがあれば教えてください。
お前、あそこに行ったのか？
あ、
It was only after she turned to look at me that I realized. Under her white lab coat, she was wearing a Hekiho Academy uniform, the same as in the picture.
おい。
Kunasato suddenly stood up and got close enough to my face that we almost touched.
お前、あそこがどういうところか分かっているのか？何を見た？何をしたんだ？
何もしてません。
I quickly drew back from her. She was scary. I could almost hear the sound of my own heart racing.
あなたもあそこの生徒じゃない収容者の一人なんですか？
何？
Because that, I pointed at her uniform.
ち、
教えてください。もしかして私あそこにいたんですか？どんなことでもいいんです。私の記憶の手がかりになることなら。
I know why she's reluctant.
どうしても知りたいんです。
Unless there's something else going on. Kunasato kept looking at me. She seemed annoyed. It was like she was trying to feel out what was in my heart.
百瀬さんは何と言っていた？
Nothing.
どうせ百瀬さんにも同じことを聞いたんだろう。何と言っていたんだ？
自分の口からは何も言えないって。あとそれから何も言えないっていうこと自体がギリギリアウトかもって。
なるほどな。あの人らしい。見事なタヌキっぷりだ。
あ、それはそう思います。
I found myself agreeing. Sly. That was the perfect word for her.
知りたいか？過去だよ。お前の。
はい。
Kunasato shrugged a little.
言っておくがな。私はお前のことに関しては何も知らないぞ。お前と会ったのはお前が事故で入院した病院が初めてだ。それ以前のことは百瀬さんから聞いてるんだろう。
はい。
その写真のこともわからん。お前が制服を着ている理由もな。
でも黒里さんはあそこの収容者なんでしょ？
I looked at the uniform she was wearing again. It was the same as the one I had on the picture. Or in the picture.
あの施設では基本的に制服着用が義務付けられている。症候群者たちに怪しまれずに動き回るにはこの服が必要なんだよ。
じゃあ黒里さんは一体。
研究者だよ。カオスチャイルド症候群のな。
研究者？
ああ。
I guess that makes some sense. She tapped the laptop monitor with her fingers. It was filled with rows of tiny numbers and several images of what looked like human brains.
もしかして私も黒里さんみたいに何か特別な理由とかあったんでしょうか？その制服を着て写真に写ってるってことは。
いや、少なくとも私の知る限りお前を壁砲で見た記憶はない。あと特別な理由とやらも思いつかんな。お前が私のような研究者だったとは思えん。
That answer didn't satisfy me. The guard had acted like he knew who I was, and the woman in the picture had been acting like we were friends.
この人は症候群の人なんですよね。
I pointed at the photo.
この人のこと教えてください。研究をしているのなら知ってるはずですよね。
部外者にそんな簡単に個人情報を教えるわけにはいかない。
部外者じゃないかもしれないじゃないですか。
お前、なぜそこまで知りたがるんだ？
そんなの当たり前です。自分のことですよ。気にしない人なんているはずないです。それに私、たくさんの声を聞いた気がするんです。この写真が貼ってあった部屋の前で。うまく言えないんですけど、とても懐かしい感じがしました。もしもあの声の中にこの人がいるなら、きっと私にとって大事な友達だったはずです。大事な友達のことを知りたいって思うのはいけないことですか？
Ugh. She was glaring at me with a really scary look on her face. Did I go a little too far? But I couldn't help it. It was the truth.
お前、面倒くさいやつだな。
Yeah.
百瀬さんがこっちに回してきたのもわかる。
She stood up and went to leave the room, as if she was finished talking.
待ってください。
I quickly tried to stop her.
話はまだ。
少しここで待っていろ。教えてもいいのかどうか確認を取る。PC には触れるなよ。
なんだ。
I thought to myself as I was alone in the room.
案外友達いるかもしれないな、あの人。
Oh yeah, she does. She's just super grumpy all the time. I was kept waiting for about an hour. Just when I was starting to think that she was making me wait deliberately, she came back into the room. She told me to follow her and to promise that I wouldn't tell anyone what I was about to see. I have a bad feeling about this.
事前に壁砲に忍び込んだという事実が聞いたな。勝手にそんなことをされるくらいならちゃんと教えておこうと言っていたよ。
研究の責任者の方ですか？
まあ責任者には違いないかな。
I'm confused, but I think that's okay. Kunisada went deeper into the building and then stopped.
ここだ。
She turned around to face me as she put her hand on the door.
ああ、待て。入る前に約束をしろ。口外無用はもちろんだが。
はい。
この中の連中を見て納得したら、今度こそ渋谷には近づくな。
え？
それが お前の知りたがっていることを教える条件だ。
待ってください。それってどういう。
会えばわかる。
Kunasato opened the door without waiting for my answer. Oh no, dude. It's the gang. I was struck dumb when I saw what was in the room. The only light came from the fluorescent lamps overhead. I could smell the peculiar scent of disinfectant. There were 4 beds, each with a patient on them. All of them were old women. Oh yeah, that is true. I thought that was Ito in the now lower right, but no, I think that's Kazuki. Their bodies were hooked up to machines like the ones you saw on TV shows that went beep beep in time with the rhythm of their hearts.
こっちへ来い。
Kunasato called to me from the bed that was furthest back. I got close and gasped. It was her. It was the girl in the photograph with me.
クルス・ノノ、18歳。カオスチャイルド症候群患者。昏睡状態になって約3ヶ月だ。
So she lived past that fight? Really? I thought she died. Like, I'm pretty sure they even said that she died. Did I miss something, or is this kind of going in a little bit of a different direction? She's 18, a coma, 3 months.
さらに彼女は他の3人と違ってここへ運び込まれた時に胸部にひどい裂傷を負っていた。
Okay, well, I guess she did survive that.
怪我をしてたんですか？
まあな。一時は危篤に陥ったが、なんとか一命を取り留めたよ。
For some reason, Kunasato was frowning as she looked at me.
まあとにかくこれで分かったろ。お前と彼女がどういう関係だったのか。それを聞こうにもこの状態ではな。
She pointed to the woman on the bed as if to say, satisfied?
昏睡って症候群のせいなんですか？
そうだ。
他の人たちも。
I looked at the other beds. Oh no. Oh no. So I guess Yuto wasn't a Chaos Child Syndrome patient. Do you have to be a patient in order to have powers? Or, like... I don't know. You know, the whole thing confuses me. I don't want to think about it. Each of them had a name written above their pillow. Arimura Hinae, Kazuki Hana, Yamazoe Uki. Yeah, was all she said.
回復するんですよね。
さあな。
The girl on the bed, Kirisu, was as still as a doll. Without the sound of the heart monitor, I doubt I would have known she was alive. Maybe everyone we did see over at the academy was probably, like, still a child. I don't think there were adults there. It's just everyone really does look, you know, that, you know, ghoulish, I guess you could say. It really did feel like I knew her, maybe. What had our relationship been like before the accident? Had we been friends at Hekiho Academy?
私、どうして。
I felt like I could almost remember, but I couldn't. Kirisu Nono, Kazuki Hana, Arimura Hinae, Yamazoe Uki. They were all names I was hearing for the first time, but it didn't feel that way. It was so frustrating not being able to remember.
3ヶ月ってことは、昏睡状態が始まったのは復興祭の頃ってことですよね。
And that was when I'd lost my memories. Was that a coincidence?
どうしてみんな昏睡状態になってしまったんですか？
それこそ患者の重要な個人情報だ。知ってどうする？
直接彼女に私のことを聞きたいんです。
素人のお前にどうこうできる病気じゃない。
わからないじゃないですか。
No, I think she does know that. But Kunasato wasn't listening. She just kept insisting that I leave and never go back to Shibuya.
じゃあ明日もう一度碧峰学園に行きます。
何？
Kunasato raised her eyebrows.
だってクルスさんがダメなら碧峰学園にしか手がかりがないです。守衛のおじさんが私のことを知ってたみたいだし。
ふざけるな。
Kunasato angrily drew closer to me and I stepped back.
そんなことをしてみろ。百瀬さんに言って生活費の振り込みを止めるぞ。
That would be bad. No, I wouldn't give up.
バイトするからいいです。
なるほど。なかなかのガッツだ。だがこの国では身元保証人がいなければまともなバイトなどないらしいな。そしてお前の身元保証人も百瀬さんだ。
That one worked. If she wouldn't let me get a job, I couldn't survive.
ひどい。なんでそこまで。
いいからお前は忠告を守っていろ。
だから納得のいく理由を教えてください。
Why did she want to keep it a secret so badly? I didn't think I was asking for anything weird.
お前の記憶云々は関係ない。今碧峰学園は微妙な立場に置かれてるからだ。
Kunasato ran an aggravated hand through her hair and showed me what was on the laptop she'd brought. The screen showed a picture of a man.
あれ？
Uh-oh. I'd seen him before too. But where? I couldn't remember.
涌井秀一。将校軍者たちには普通の教師だと認識されていたはずだが、実際は違う。施設の管理人の一人だ。カオスチャイルド症候群の研究をしていた科学者だよ。復興祭の直後、こいつは今までの症候群に関するデータを持って姿を消したんだ。患者の情報の流出ということになれば大変な事態になる。学園は大騒ぎになった。ところがこいつはもっと悪質でな。管理人の立場を利用して学園を私物化していた。詳細は言えないが、この男のせいで碧峰学園は何が起きてもおかしくない状態にある。だから絶対に近づくなと言ってるんだ。
What the fuck, man?
おい、聞いてるのか？
あ、はい。
He made a lot of moves in order to make sure he was in a good position. We know that he's from the committee. I couldn't take my eyes off the man in the picture. What was this? I knew him from somewhere. My eyes met with Kunasato just as the scene flashed through my mind. Her look of annoyance had vanished, and she was dead serious.
お前、この男を覚えているのか？この男とどこで会ったのか、それもわかるか？
I tried to remember the image I'd just seen. It was probably...
どうなんだ？
なんとなくですけど。
But why would I know that place? I could hear Kunasato whisper as I tried to think.
装置の場所を覚えている。記憶の改変が完全ではなかったのか？
なんですか？
いや、こっちの話だ。とにかくその場所を教えてくれ。大事なことなんだ。
ええ、いいですけど。でも、その代わり、お願いがあります。
And then I explained the idea I'd just had to her. I wonder what that was. I left the patient room and was taken even deeper into the hospital. I was told I'll need to get permission from above and I'll have to negotiate, and kept waiting several more hours. It was probably night outside now. The further into the hospital I went, the colder the air became. I felt like something terrifying was waiting for me.
どこへ行くんです？
お前の持ち出した交換条件のためだ。もう一人、患者に会わないとならない。
え？
Was what I said that difficult, excuse me? I hadn't thought it would be.
新庄さん。
ん？
Oh, it's Shinjo. What's up, man? Kunasato took me down the hallway to an area marked staff only, no entry. A man in a suit was waiting for us. His eyes went wide with surprise when he saw me.
何のつもりだ？まずいだろ
う。説明は部屋の中でする。あんたも来い。
Kunasato brushed past him.
尾上。
はい。
この人は渋谷署の新庄刑事だ。カオスチャイルド症候群の研究に協力してもらっている。
A detective helping study a disease? Was that a thing that happened? I bowed, confused.
新庄さん、監視の交代までどれくらいある？
しばらくは大丈夫だ。でも彼が怒るぞ。
だろうな。とにかく来い。あんたにとっても重要な話だ。
Kunasato went further down the hallway. I followed. It felt like something scary was getting closer. I wonder what we're gonna see.
誰がいるんですか？
部屋に入ればわかる。君もニュースくらい見るだろ？
ニュース？有名人ですか？
Yeah, kinda.
ああ、久野里さんからも注意されてると思うが、これから先のことは絶対に秘密にしてくれ。彼自身のことはもちろん、彼に会ったことやこの場所のことも喋っちゃいけない。いいね。
はい。
I mean, we only have like 2 friends. I don't know if they would believe anything we would tell them anyways. What kind of famous person could it be if they needed all this security? The 2 of them stopped in front of a certain door. And there was a no visitors sign on the door, and the small window was barred. Only a faint light came from within. The detective took out something. It was a key. The door locked from the outside. There was a tension building between the 2 of them. I started to feel nervous too.
尾上。
はい。
お前はニュージェネレーションの狂気の再来事件についてどこまで知っている？
The return of the new generation madness. I knew about it.
ニュースで流れていることなら一通りはある程度だと思いますけど、渋谷で起きたその連続殺人ですよね。
犯人については？
私の一個上の男で、なんだっけ、宮なんとか、宮沢？
宮代だよ。宮代拓くん。
ああ、そんな名前でした。
Where I'd borrowed when I'd borrowed Ayaka's phone, to look up Chaos Child Syndrome, I'd seen his name a few times on news sites and blogs. At first, I'd wondered why he was showing up in my search results, but when I read them, I found out that he had Chaos Child Syndrome too. By the time Ayaka and Aoi had told me not to look, it was too late. I'd already seen photos of the crime scenes. They were awful. Just remembering them made me feel anger and hatred toward the killer.
私と一つしか違わない人があんなことをしたなんて信じられませんけど。
Yeah, you keep on saying that, Sarika. You're all good. Maybe he'd wanted to be famous. Maybe that's why. And one of the victims was his own sister, they said. I couldn't believe it.
事件後、宮代がどうなったか知っているか？
さあ、でも逮捕されたんですよね。裁判とかするんじゃないんですか？
For some reason, Kunosato glanced at the door. So did Shinja. I suddenly felt cold ice pressed to the back of my neck. No way, it couldn't be. Was he inside?
カオスチャイルド症候群から回復した人間は一人もいない。表向きはそうなっている。
So he recovered?
宮代は事件を引き
Is that what they're
起
trying
こ
to
した
say
当
here?
時、カオスチャイルド症候群だった。だが逮捕後に回復に向かっていることが確認された。
現状で唯一の症候群からの帰還者だ。病気の解明のため特別措置としてこの病院に隔離されている。
Not that the public knows anything about it, Kunosato added. It was cold, but I still felt an awful sweat. The killer was working with Kunosato? And the police were in on it too.
なんで私がそんな人と会わなくちゃいけないんですか？
No, I'm scared. I don't want to meet him. Who knows what he'll do to me?
安心しろ。あいつはお前には何もしない。絶対にな。
Kunosato wasn't listening to me. Shinjo used the key and the door slowly opened. Man, he's just sitting there in the darkness, menacingly. I saw him immediately in the dark room. Damn, yeah, he looks normal. I mean, depressed, but normal. He was sitting on the bed looking at me. He wasn't handcuffed, and he wasn't bound at all. I took a small step back. He was thin and wasting away like a dead tree branch. It was hard to believe he'd committed those murders. Had he just recovered from Chaos Child Syndrome? His face was like an 18-year-old boy's, but his bony limbs and neck still looked like they belonged to an old man.
これが宮代拓。
The killer behind the return of the new generation madness?
新庄さん、久野里さん、約束が違う。
I found myself hiding behind Kunosato's back when he spoke. The kind of killer who could do something like that had to be a very scary man. My hand was shaking as I held onto Kunosato's white lab coat.
どういうことです？無関係の人をここに連れてくるなんて。
I could tell from his voice that he was angry. I shrank back to try and hide from him.
状況が変わった。こいつは尾上セリカ。碧峰学園のことを知っているらしい。ある場所で涌井と二人きりで会っていた覚えもあるそうだ。
え？
Okay, I see what's going on. Both he and Shinjo gasped in surprise. He stood up from the bed and walked over to me. I got scared and clung to Kunosato tighter.
そんな、まさか。
そのまさかだよ。この病院の地下からどこかへ消え去った施設のことだろう。
Actually, maybe I don't know what's going on.
新庄さんがどれだけ探しても見つけられないあれもそこにあるはずだ。そして尾上セリカはその場所を覚えている。
本当なのか？
The detective grabbed me and pulled me close. I was yanked away from Kunosato.
どこだ？君はどこでそれを？
それは。
I almost answered but managed to stop myself in time.
ち
I could hear Kunosato groan. That was close. I wasn't supposed to tell them yet.
尾上さん。
彼女は取引がしたいそうだ。
何？
どういうことですか？
施設の場所を教える代わりにカオスチャイルド症候群の原因究明に協力させろ と言っている。
Miyashiro was looking at me with narrowed eyes again.
尾上さんだっけ？
Okay, so you know what? I really just gotta let this out, like, right away, because I am just confused. Do they not know about... They have to know about Serika, right? Are they all just pretending that they don't know her? Because Momose and Kunasato definitely alluded to knowing who she is. And, I mean, they have to know who she is. They really have to, but what about everybody else? Are they just in on it? Are they just trying to pretend?
一つ聞いてもいいかな？
That's why a second ago, I asked, you know, when Shinjo and Takuru looked surprised, it was surprise towards the location that they were looking for, not surprise to trying to act like they don't know her. But still, are they just pretending? They have to be, right? They have to know who she is. She's the real killer. It was scary when he stared at me, but I worked up my courage and looked back at the killer.
何？
どうして首を突っ込みたがるの？素人の君が協力なんて言ったって何もできないと思うけど。
それは。
施設の情報だけ刑事さんに教えてさ、いつも通りの楽しい生活に戻りなよ。
Yeah, you know what? Okay, they have to be just pretending to try and push her away to live that normal life. Because even Kunasato brought up the whole, like, you know, the memory shit to, you know, alter her memory and how it was imperfect. They have to all be in on this. I don't know why I was thinking otherwise, sorry. I guess it's just one of them days. I didn't think a person like him would understand how I felt. Well, he was the kind of person who'd kill his own family. But if I didn't say anything, it would feel like I was letting him beat me. So I decided to say what I was thinking. My voice started to fill with emotion until finally I was practically shouting in his face.
友達かもしれない女の子を助けたいって、そう思うのがいけないの？まああんたにはそんな気持ちわかんないでしょうけど。
He didn't say anything back. He just listened to me silently. And then when I was done, he smiled a little. What? How can he smile like that?
宮代、このことに関しては決定権をお前にやろう。新庄さんもそれでいいか？
仕方ないな。
ありがとうございます。
I looked at Kunasato and the detective in surprise. They were going to let a murderer decide what to do with me? That didn't make any sense.
ただ、
It's because he's not the
お前
murderer.
の情報がないと前に進めないのも事実だ。あの施設さえ見つかれば画像は完成できる。
わかってます。久野里さん、新庄さん、少しこのことを二人にしてもらえませんか？
That shocked me even more. No, no way. Who knew what he'd do?
好きにしろ。
少しの間だけだぞ。
ちょっと待ってください。嫌です。
I grabbed Kunisato's lab coat, but she knocked my hand away. And then the detective of all people, excuse me, was the first to leave the room. All he said was an irresponsible "don't worry, you'll be fine." And then he shut the door and locked it too. I was trapped in here. I was too scared to turn around and face the bed. Whether I'd meant it or not, I'd been really mean to him. What if he attacked me? Yeah, I guess to like an outside perspective, like Serika's right now, this would seem a little weird, but I kind of... Okay, I get what's going on now, I think. I took a glance over my shoulder. He, Miyashiro Takuru, was still there.
座っていいかな？長い間立ってると疲れるんだ。
好きにすればいいでしょ。
Miyashiro took a deep breath and sat on the bed. He rubbed his knees as if he was feeling for something. There was no strength in him, and sitting down he looked even smaller. He didn't look like he was going to attack me. A little relieved, I turned to face him.
別におかしなことはしないよ。さっきの続きを聞きたかっただけ。友達かもしれない女の子を助けたいって言ったよね。
そうよ。だから何？
それが。
Miyashiro stopped rubbing his knees, and then he looked straight at me.
それが今、君のやりたいことなの。
For some reason, when he asked that question, I found that I couldn't speak for a second. I felt something boiling up deep within my heart. But then I answered him clearly.
そうですよ。それが私のやりたいことですけど、話はそれだけ。
ああ。
For some reason, Miyashiro smiled again. I didn't understand what that smile meant.
そっか。
Then he burst out laughing, and I didn't know what to do. He curled his tiny body up into an even tinier ball as he doubled over laughing. He shook as he tried to stop laughing, but he failed, and a hoarse voice leaked out of his throat. I didn't find it funny at all.
何がおかしいの？
いや、ごめん。なんでもないんだ。それで君は友達かもしれない女の子を助けてどうするつもり？
私のことを聞くのよ。私はどんな人間だったのかって、なんで碧峰学園にいたのかって。
そっか。わかった。安心した。僕らに協力してほしい。
Huh? Relieved? What did that mean? This really didn't make any sense at all.
いいの？そんな簡単に OK しちゃって。
Takuru has a really long neck.
あ、君のやりたいことは絶対に邪魔しない。まあ、あるところに踏み込んでこなければだけどね。
Certain places.
何それ？
こっちの話さ。協力よろしくな。
Miyashiro offered me his hand as he smiled. Did he want me to shake it? No way. I looked away and he stopped smiling and scratched his head.
ああ、悪い。つい。
He seemed like a normal, awkward boy. It was impossible to believe that he could be a killer.
って何考えてるの？私。
My mind flashed back to those images of the case. The blood everywhere, the expressions of pain, the cruelly tortured bodies. The anger I'd almost forgotten came back.
言っとくけど、どんな理由があっても人を殺すなんて絶対に許されないから。あんたは最低なことしたんだから。
The person in front of me had killed his own sister and then said he'd kill himself but didn't. Was he scared of dying even after he'd killed other people? Did he care about his own life too much? The people he'd killed had their own lives that they'd cared about too. They'd had lives, friends, families. The things I was trying so hard to get for myself. Maybe I'd never get them, no matter how hard I tried. And he'd just stolen all of them away from others.
私、あんたみたいなやつ、大嫌い。
I didn't know what effect my words had on him. He just sat on the bed and silently looked up. And suddenly smiled again.
何よ。
And what's more, there were tears in his eyes. His tears were so honest and true that I found myself overwhelmed. They fell to the bed without a sound. How long did we stay like that? I had to remind myself that the person in front of me was a serial killer. If I didn't, I felt like I might forget my anger. I couldn't believe myself.
今さら泣いて後悔したって、 手遅れよ。
Miyashiro kept crying, but he didn't stop smiling. His face looked like a parent watching a child.
後悔なんてしないよ。僕は自分のしたことに悔いはない。満足してるんだ。
That could be taken really wrong, and it probably will be. He didn't regret it after all those terrible killings. And he was serious too. It was as if he was crying tears of joy.
このクズ。
I didn't want to keep talking to him anymore. I went to the door and called for Kunasato and the detective. They came inside and looked toward Miyashiro without bothering to see if I was okay.
結果は
Miyashiro wiped away the tears as he spoke.
協力してもらうことにしました。
いいのか？
はい。
The two of them looked at his face as if they saw something painful there, but he kept laughing and crying.
僕が考えてた普通の女の子とはちょっと違いますけど、彼女がノノを助けたいと思って行動するのなら協力してもらいましょう。
ノノ。
Nono was the first name of Kirisu, the woman in the hospital room, which meant that the two of them were friends?
宮代、念のため確認するが。
Kunisada's voice was low. She probably was worried I'd hear, excuse me.
お前はもう以前のお前じゃない。力は使えない。それは分かっているな。
はい。何度も試しました。もう僕にはディソードも見えません。
Oh. Howard, the D sword? What was he talking about?
最悪の事態に陥っても力には頼れない。それでもやるんだな。
はい。ノノたちのためですから。というか、久野里さんらしくないですね。委員会の情報さえ手に入れば、それで満足じゃないんですか？
Miyashiro chuckled and Kunisato frowned and looked away.
うるさい。自分から力を捨てて戻ってきたやつは初めてなんだ。対応が難しい。
Are you sure? She asked. Miyashiro nodded.
大丈夫です。あんな力、もう必要ありません。
She was still looking away from him. All right, she whispered. Detective Shinjo's mouth went wide open in shock when he saw that.
なんだ、私の顔に何かついているのか？
いや、久野里さんがそんなに分かりやすく困ってるところを初めて見る。普段からそういう態度でいたらいいのにな。
あ、それいいアイディアですね。久野里さんならできるんじゃないですか？
お前ら、いい加減に。
私もその方がいいと思います。看護師さんに気難しい人って言われてますよ。
なんだと？
I hadn't meant to say that. Kunisada was glaring at me fiercely. After that, she explained to me the rest of the plan. She was still pissed off the whole time. Finding out about Kirisu and the others, all the Chaos Child Syndrome patients actually involved far more danger than I had imagined. But I wanted my memories and my past back no matter what. And that was enough to keep me from getting scared and backing out. Wowzers. Okay, so we're gonna end the episode here a little early. My bad. I'll try to make up for that at some point. But yeah, confusion aside that I had earlier, this is interesting. So they're all pretending that they had never met her and all that, but obviously they know exactly who she is, and I don't know. I thought they'd be a lot more cautious, but I guess not. It'll be interesting to see the direction this goes in, and the fact that Takuru no longer has his powers. He is truly defenseless now, but maybe that had something to do with curing his syndrome. Maybe, maybe not, I have no idea, and there's still more we need to learn about this syndrome. as we continue onward. But I guess at this point we can assume that this entire time, throughout all of Chaos Child, we looked green and ugly, as so did everybody else that had these powers and went to that school. So again, that kind of raises the question of like, does that mean everybody that has this syndrome has the capability of using a D-sword, of using some sort of power, whether it's big or small? I'm not exactly sure. So therefore, maybe these questions could get answered, but I guess I'm just taken aback by this whole syndrome thing and all that. It kind of was a bit of a surprise. But we'll save it for next time, I suppose. Thank you guys for watching this episode. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe, all that fancy jazz, and I will see you guys next time. Take it easy.